Hello and welcome to Locked In FPL. We're back after a short break for Game Week 9. Of course, I wasn't here last week for the Game Week 8 episodes. Fortunately, everything's back on track, and I'm excited and raring to go with Steve-O from EliteFPL. We're going to go through Game Week 9. But before that, I want to learn more about my special guest, as we always do, more of a casual fireside chat style meeting, I would say, as if we're almost at the meets at the pub, just watching a game, chatting about our teams. Now, I also know there's Champions League on, so we will try to get out of here within an hour so you can catch the second half. Keep us posted how City and Liverpool are doing for FPL reasons in the live chat, guys. Evening, everyone who's tuned in. But without further ado, it makes sense to bring you in, Steve-O. Welcome to the channel. I know you're just in from work as well, so huge commitment to the cause.
No, thanks for having me. Like I said to you on WhatsApp, I think this is the most formal podcast stream, whatever you want to call it, I've ever done. So you've got me nervous, Nima.
I love it, but the funny thing is, you went to the studio, right, in Juice, where we met as well, and we were both there with, I think it was Az that day, and I have a photo from that in a moment that I'll put on screen as we get to know you. So this was a moment that I don't know what we were discussing. It was like, I can't imagine if it was FPL related or something ludicrous and unrelated, like a tangent. But I see what you mean. I guess there's more fun and jokes on Juice. So even though it's a live studio, I feel so honored that you would say my show feels like the proper one that you're nervous for and not Juice. So I'm gonna send shots to Nick.
That stream there lasted for over 3 hours, wasn't it? I mean, I think I said afterwards I'd happily. I think I said it to Az. I'd happily stay here for another 3 or 4 hours.
It just disappeared, right? And the time went before we knew it. And I think you're right. It was 3 hours. It was maybe 3 hours and something. It was a marathon. Maybe the longest show in Juice history, even apart from the live streams at the Game Week 38 meetups, right?
Yeah. Well, anytime, the thing is, I've always said this, is that, as you know, with the FPL meets, being in person with someone talking FPL is a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's more of a better connection. And I remember we were in that studio that day, and just the three of us were riffing on the whole price changing situation at the time, and how, well, basically we just wanted to be more, what's the word I'm looking for here? What's the word I'm looking for, Nima? Help me out here. You're an intelligent bloke. Yeah, more transparent. Yeah, we were just having this discussion, and I keep doing it to this day, as just, and what's wrong with that? He said to me, and I'm just like, as mate, calm down. I'm just trying.
Well, we're having beers as well, maybe. I see juice tankards in front of people. They look quite empty. I don't know if I was drinking back then or not, but yeah, no, it was good to obviously meet you there. I know we'd met before as well, right? So we met at the meetup.
That was this season, wasn't it?
This was this season, I think. I think it was maybe in the pre-season. So maybe we were talking about the changes they'd recently made as well.
Right.
To like the players' prices and new rules, I think. Or it could have been in the last season. Who knows at this stage? But I just love the photo because it also shows like your big muscles. I don't know if anyone's listening on podcasts, you got to check it out. Steve-O inspired me on my fitness journey, like professional WWE weightlifter. It's like you're always ready to go. So thank you for the inspiration. But let's talk about how you got into FPL. I'd love the kind of viewers to learn more about what made you get into the game, how long maybe you've been playing. You have a 4,000 finish that I found, which is pretty impressive. And that was early on in your FPL journey. So yeah, any favorite memories, how you like to play FPL and how you got into it?
Yeah, so I'll never forget. It was basically when I was at Tesco down where I used to live. And basically I did my own fantasy football game. It was just, I took the Daily Mirror, took the names of all the players. I just photocopied it in the library, handed them out to my work colleagues and said, if you want to participate, it will cost you, I can't even remember how much it would have cost, £5, say. And I would then each week do all the points myself.
Wow, you're doing this on paper or
Excel? Yeah, we're talking 12, maybe 13 years ago. And it was when Brad Friedel would have been in goal for Blackburn, kind of that Premier League era.
Yeah.
And when what's his face? Barry Ferguson played for Blackburn, and I think it was, oh God, there's also another notorious Blackburn player back in the day. But anyway, and basically my mate just said after 2 seasons, have you ever thought about just not having to do this and play the free game instead? And I went,
there was already, that's why I was confused, because when he said 12 seasons ago, I was like, the game's existed for longer than 12 years.
yeah.
So I was baffled that you were like doing it on paper yourself. So you were really into it. And these guys introduced you to the game after you realized that.
Yeah, because I was, so we all, I say we all, but obviously nowadays there's EA FC, wherever it's bloody called, and people are like now commentating when they're playing FIFA or whatever. Well, the messed up thing is that when I was a kid, Ray was the one that posted about Pro Evolution Soccer 5 the other day, and it brought back memories of when I was literally in the bedroom and I would just commentate to myself about the players that, because I'd create my own team, as in the people that I went to school with.
Nice.
So I would just be obsessed with just playing Master League and commentating as I'm playing along with
I love
match.
the commentary part because it fits your character. For those who don't know, as well as Elite FPL, Stevo has his own Total Stevo podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to, so now it kind of was all adding up. Now I'm like, oh wow, okay, so you were in your bedroom playing Pro Evo, making it with the school team. I was with you up until there, but then the commentating, I was like, that's what sets us apart. You are
this
a
is the
killer
thing.
presenter.
I was having this conversation with a guy at work yesterday about having attention deficit disorder, but without actually being diagnosed. Now I've got a mild form of it, but that was it. We were talking about education. I just said, I have got zero education. Like my GCSEs are either E or below. That's how bad I did. And obviously when I was growing up in the, when I was a teenager in the early 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s, school back then wasn't about encouraging you as a person. It was just, you will stick to these formatted set lessons and the curricula and whatnot. And if you don't get a C or above in history, you will not be allowed to do PE. And it's the only thing I wanted to do was PE. And they're like, nope, can't do it because you get this. Anyway, and I realized many years later, thanks to the podcast Mind Pump, that it's because I had ADHD. I just could not care less about anything I was being taught whatsoever at school. And the only outlet I had was being in my bedroom, playing Pro Evolution Soccer, commentating. Like, I mean, full on commentary. It's ridiculous.
Here's why I love it, because did you used to be able to do 90-minute games, or am I remembering the wrong game?
No. I would do 10-minute games. 90 minutes is ridiculous.
Okay. I was gonna say, because if you're commentating for 90 minutes, I just wanted to get into your brain. I was like, if you were commentating for 90 minutes, then I don't know if I can help you. But 10 minutes I can do. 10 minutes. You know what? Me and my friend, that's how I really got into football. It was a funny story. Like, we used to play Pro Evo, but back then they had all the wrong names, right? So I used to buy the cartridges and the discs or cheats or whatever to rename players and teams.
That's it. Yeah.
It was such funny. I remember Netherlands, right? They were the most memorable for me because they would just call Orange 1, Orange 2, Orange 3. They didn't even have typos in their name. They just had no names. That was the toughest one to figure out.
Well, that's it. I would, like you, I would get the memory card that you'd buy online and then you'd stick it in and all of it was correct and whatnot. And I mean, before I even discovered that, I would personally go for every single Premier League team and I would do the formations as they were in real life and I would change the names for all this. I think back and how many hours I would have played just to do that alone.
Did you play as Burnley? Did you wear the Burnley?
No. I was always in Master League. I would just be. We were called. What was it? Preston. It was my 7-a-side team name. It was something like Preston United or whatever. And Preston is one of the small little suburban towns where I'm from.
Arsenal's playing them next week in the cup.
No, not Preston.
Not that Preston. Okay.
No. It's a little tiny little town. It's not even a town. It's just a bunch of shops in a really nice area in Torbay. And like I said, I would just create my own players. But what was really crazy is that, in Pro Evo, you would have the players that were like, when they turned to like the age of 40 or whatever and retired, they would then regenerate as like a 17-year-old.
Yes.
And I'd always buy like Thierry Henry or some of the big names. I always remember. Yes. But I always remember Ryan Babel linking up with my friend Cy Bellamy, and I would just be going absolutely full on commentary mode about the fact that Cy Bellamy is now breaking the records of all the Premier League greats at the moment. He scored 12 goals so far. He was like the Haaland of the Preston United or whatever back then on Pro Evo. And him and Ryan Babel would link up really, really well. And he had, in real life, he's got a brother called Dale, and them two, I kind of made out they were having a rivalry. Like, why is Steve-O not picking Dale in the team? He's got so much attributes to him and whatnot.
There
and
was that media coverage going between games in the season. It was like continued.
Well, this is exactly the point. And I would even make sure that, because a lot of people, when they create a player, they deliberately put all the stats up to like ridiculous levels. Whereas me, I was like, nope. For instance, with me, it would be my shot power would be something like 98, 99, because I had a hell of a shot power. Accuracy, though, down to about 60. So I couldn't hit a barn door. So I would genuinely create the players properly. And yeah, why are we talking about this?
I was going to say, I was going to let you finish before we went on, but this is the part that we put like 20 minutes towards 30 minutes just to get to know you, right? But we can go more into the transition of FPL. I know it was also about mastery.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah, because
it was the connection back from writing on paper and creating your own team. That was the original connection, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to go back on that train of thought, I can help you there.
Yeah, so this guy Pete, he said, "Oh, have you ever thought about just doing it for free on this game?" And I was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to show me what this is all about." And all I can remember is then we set up a mini league with the rival Tesco shop. But this links me into Jason. So we're talking probably 2000 and... when did I start the game? You've probably got the history up in front of you. I could, in fact, why don't I just check myself?
Yes, I think you started before me, that's for sure. I had a look. So you have been playing, I think, just slightly longer than me.
11, 12.
2012. Yes, you started one season before me. That's the only difference.
Right. So that is.
And you did Unreal. But you did Unreal, man. So like your first season, right, you came 29K. And then your second season, you finished 4,200. When I started in Gameweek, in 2012, 13, I had a few 7-digit ranks for the first few years. Then 1 year I missed deadline, and then I came back and then I started targeting like top 100K. Whereas I'm fascinated, like you've also got like another 42K recently as well, last few years, a 22K, a 33K, a 15K, lots of great ranks, even 83K after the 4K. So it's very consistently good. And that's what my question was for you, is like, how come like your best finish was so early, and like even one of your other ones as well, both of them, right? What was it that you brought with you into those first years? Is there any of it that you feel like you remember, or was it too long ago?
Mate, we're talking what, 12 years ago now.
Aguero moment times, those days. If you remember anything from Aguero.
Honestly, I could not tell you anything, because
not like James, right, from Planet. He remembers everything.
No, I like a joke beforehand. I'm watching Hull. So if people are watching this now, I'm constantly looking to my right because it's Hull versus Burnley at the moment. If you're unaware, I'm a Burnley supporter. But I made the point to Nima before we came on air, because he asked me about, we may get into Burnley. I said, look, there's more chance of me telling you about Liverpool this season than I have got about Burnley. But the only memory I have from that kind of era is when Theo Walcott got a hat-trick against Reading, and maybe a hat-trick and an assist. He basically just... There was a player that was really, really popular to captain. I couldn't even tell you which one it was. And I remember going against it and thinking, you know what? I don't trust that whoever it was. I'm going to back Walcott versus Southampton. I'm sure, no, it was Reading, yeah. Walcott for Arsenal versus Reading. And I think Arsenal won like 4 or 5-1, 5-0. Maybe it was the time when they beat them 7. I cannot remember. And I remember a Captain Walcott, and I was in the kitchen, and I was doing what I'd always do, which was I was on Fantasy Football Scout, and I'd always be posting about what's going on in the matches. And basically, I just remember Sam Matterface, who now gets all the hate. But back then, when he was kind of getting into commentary, because he was really young back then, I just always remember him saying, well, if you've got Theo Walcott in your fantasy team, you will be happy because he's just gone and scored again. And I just went absolutely apeshit about the fact that my differential captain had, I'm sure it was a hat-trick, Nima. I'm sure it was. I mean, can you even remember this?
I think I remember. I think it was was it around Christmas?
Again, you're asking me something I can
Wait, which season? This is the 2012 or 2011?
I don't even know what season it would have been.
Okay, you don't know which one. Okay,
but it probably would have been around the first 3 seasons
that you played.
And
I remember him scoring against Newcastle a hat trick or 4 goals. It was like 7-4, and I think it was that Boxing Day or around Christmas one year.
Right.
In that era. And Walcott, I think we won 7-4 in the league. It was a pretty crazy game.
Yeah, there was another memory of me. It was captaining Suarez. You reminded me of a memory.
Was it 5 goals versus Norwich?
Yep. And I was one of the very few people that captained him in our Torbay Elite mini league. And I was going again absolutely ballistic about the fact that I can't believe it. This player has scored all these goals for me. It's just amazing.
I love that. I remember mine was always Mikel Antonio. More recently against Norwich. And it was that game week 32, and he got like 4 goals. Those were the days.
Talking of Cy Bellamy just now. Not that you even know this person, but I believe he definitely owned Antonio for that, and we were taking the piss out of him because we were like, why would you have Antonio in your team? And he's so injury prone. Because wasn't that like the first day of the season or like within the first few?
So there was the start of the season so my best finish was when I had Antonio and Ben Rahma on the same start game week 1.
Yeah.
And it was exactly then, you're right. Yeah. It's like it was game week 1 that was a good one. But that was because I remembered Antonio had been pivotal a couple of times, both at the start of the season itself and at the end in game week 32 when I captained him for the 4 goals. So it's kind of like, for me, that season's my most memorable for sure. Obviously, like it's rare that happens. I think just to put it in context, is what was really weird about it, Steve-O. So game week 1, my game week rank that year was the top 5 game week rank of that entire season out of 38 weeks. But at the same time, right, and just think about this, it was my lowest overall rank at any point that season. So the rank I got in game week 1 was a top 5 game week rank for me that year. But it was still my lowest overall rank at any point the rest of the 37 weeks ahead.
That's incredible.
So just like, it was such a crazy, this is what I mean. So like, I had like Ben Rahma, I had Antonio, I think I had Bruno and Greenwood at the time. So I kind of like doubles in attack from the same teams. And I just happened to, in the first few weeks, catch the assist makers for each goal in high scoring games, and everything went my way. It all started really well. And then I just kind of just stayed there and just carried on fighting to try and get a 3-digit finish, which had eluded me 2 years before, where I finished like just outside. So I was like, oh shit. And I always thought this might be my last chance. I think when you're up there, so it's similar to when you were at 4,000, you kind of feel like you don't know whether you should keep pushing and go all the way, or like, are you going to drop out the 10K? So did that have any thinking in your mind, or did you not know about overall rank?
Again, I'm telling you this now for free, is that overall ranks never came into my mind until I started watching Andy Let's Talk FPL, which would have been because this, I'll be honest with you, this is probably the most I've ever looked at my rank history, to be honest with you.
Ever, right? The first time you've ever looked at it, yeah.
So in the 2015-16 season, because you're just reminding me of memories now. So I discovered Fantasy Football Scout. It must have been 2011, 2012, 2013, roughly around that era. And like I said, I was doing lots of posting on there. I was one of those people that was deliberately trying to, I don't know if they still do it now, but get your comment as a hot topic. And I would be posting about the rumours and yes, TalkSport are announcing this. And I was it's really weird because looking back, I'd be like one of those, the equivalent now of team leakers, basically. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that I was someone that people were coming to, but I was
you weren't the head honcho, as they're saying in the chat.
I wouldn't say I was
they say you're the leader of the cartel.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get onto that in a minute. But certainly I was somebody who was, because I was obsessed with Talk. I mean, Talk Sport was on in my ears for pretty much 24 hours a day when it was, because this is when it was good back then. And the information they would release was golden, because social media back then was just Facebook, and X it existed, but it was slowly coming to form. Because I always remember Stan Collymore talking about how X is going to be the next big social media, and he was the first person, I think, to term it social media. And I was getting really annoyed by him constantly calling it social media, but they had to, because they didn't want to get themselves into trouble with the company that they were quoting, or so. I can't remember. It was ridiculous. But anyway, but with Fantasy Football Scout, I would be using Talk Sport to feed information that was literally happening live in my ears. And I was just obsessed with it, Nima, because I was just at home in the kitchen, just listening into Talk Sport, doing my research for my FPL team, while also just typing out notes for FS Scout and trying my hardest to get it as a hot topic. And it was always that relief, like, yes, I've got my comment as the top comment.
It was before Twitter community existed, I suppose. It was a time when the community. Yeah. So I similarly started using Scout a few years in, and I was kind of mainly looking at like the top. I think it was the trending table every week. I remember it was like players that were going up in like people's perception, and players who were going down in people's. It was kind of like people you were on watch listing almost. But I was, and also the captaincy poll. I used to always look at that. So and then people would use the forums much more than that. It was real conversation. Whereas obviously eventually it became like every post, whatever it's about, it was just people RMTing, like saying rate my team, rate my team.
Well, so I know Trigger Lips is, or was certainly, a very, very popular member. It's the same as Late Riser, and he talks in a lot of in-depth discussion about, like you just mentioned, about how FF Scout used to be a real proper community. You used to know everybody. Everybody knew everybody, but then once X took over, or Twitter as it was known back
even
then.
Reddit, because back then I moved to Reddit. Yeah, because back then I was like, if it's RMT, there's a daily RMT thread on Reddit anyway. But then after a while, I was like, you're kind of giving and taking advice from people, but everyone's just faceless on Reddit. It kind of just felt like it's very much burner accounts at best. So again, when I found Twitter, it was because I used to look for injury news. What else? Like maybe lineup news, as you say. That all the posts from Twitter would be posted on Reddit. So then eventually I was like, oh, but if I go straight to Twitter, maybe I can actually talk to the people and have conversations online. And then COVID came around, that sped it up. So around 2020, really, that was it. Like I came to Twitter as it was X, and just started chatting to people, and we were all locked up at home anyway. And then I realized this whole community had existed for way longer before I joined. And it just felt nice to chat to you, and then like I'm tweeting you. I feel like I know more about what you're replying because I understand you better as a person over time after meeting you.
Well,
so
it helps
kind of
when
like helps, right? Rather than like on Reddit where I didn't know anyone. It's all just like
well, it helps that we've also met in person, and that's what's so amazing about your FPL meets, is that it gets people that are fan of a very niche little game together, like you did on Saturday, and just people, like you say, it's you. I always remember Nick joking about it, or even Ash at one of their said, it's just so funny when so and so comes up to you and says, "Oh, hello, mate. Yeah, I'm Mark." Who? FPL Banana. Oh yeah, FPL Banana.
It's so funny. Yeah. The first one I met was so it was Tom, and he had a shirt on, like a white shirt with a collar, like really nice.
Tom is in Lucky Plucky.
No, so this is a Sponge. So he had a sponge, a big yellow sponge pinned. And then he was like, oh, I'm FPL Sponge. So again, like, it was just so funny trying to relate. Like, do you introduce yourself as your real name or your FPL handle? But what we'll do is we're going to go into your team, because I think these conversations we're having, they're slowly coming towards FPL now. There was a comment in the chat. Just let's do a couple of shout outs before we keep going. So I'll timestamp this so the podcast viewers can, if they feel like it, they can kind of skip the shout outs from 24 minute 30 till whatever time it says that the game week 8, game week 9 part starts. But cool. So we have Charles Watts was in the chat. Evening, lads. Good to see him here leaking news for us. Evening all from David Harrison. Darnish, evening all. He says Saka out this weekend. I don't know if I'd rely on that from a podcast. Come and watch the video to make your own choice. Gary Horwood, hey Steve-O, you sound familiar. And Fire Talk. I see there's a lot of Steve-O fans, right? A lot of
all the
personal
Elite
friends.
FPL crew. Yes, good. I'm glad they're supporting the channel, or the show.
It's nice to have their support. Thank you. Any cartel members in here? Ash says. And then we have FPL Maggot. Good evening, mate. I apologize. I was a little bit drunk on Saturday. I do remember you trying to get me to join you for a dancing TikTok, which I almost did at half time. But had things been going better for Arsenal, maybe you would have got the dancing TikTok with me, mate. But there's always next time. Gary Hallwood, good morning from New Zealand. Colin Boogler says, you're here for starters. Ashgate. Claire, evening all. Thank you for tuning in. Yep, my gut feeling is Steve-O is the head honcho of the cartel. Harry Dawson, evening all. He says Steve-O's the hired muscle for the cartel. Got SK, good to see you, buddy. Sparta, good to see you. Jason Rise, evening. Just watching Graham Hancock and you at the same time. Love that. Steve-O's watching Burnley at the same time.
Is that Jason's watching Graham Hancock right now?
Yeah, at the same time.
I don't know. Do you even know who Graham? I do. Do you know who Graham Hancock is?
No, not personally. If I saw his face, I'd probably recognize him.
He's one of Joe Rogan's best mates, and they go into full-on detail about undiscovered civilizations. It's the most fascinating conversation you ever get into. But he was on a podcast debating with some other bloke that was basically saying, "You're speaking rubbish, mate," and it was so overwhelming with knowledge. I'm like, I can't listen. It was like a 5-hour long discussion. I'm like, I lasted about 40 minutes and I'm like, I can't deal with this anymore. But
yeah, I listened to one of my first full Joe Rogan podcast recently with I think Huberman, and it was at 3 hours, as you say. Like I had to listen to that shit in parts, like on different commutes. Yeah, it's like a fucking Lord of the Rings of podcasts, man. What the fuck? And then I found out like every episode's like that, and he's on like thousands of episodes, hundreds of episodes, whatever. Like,
well, did you not?
I knew he was the man of podcasting. Like I knew that much, but I hadn't been watching many of them, like especially fully. Like I'd watch clips that I'd find, right? Like they get clipped and put online.
Oh yeah, I not discovered, but I was made aware of Joe Rogan many years ago, and the early Graham Hancock episodes there's one with a dinosaur expert, which is one of the best episodes I've ever heard. Just some of the interviews he's done are just fantastic.
What we'll do is, by the way, I'll keep this SK. We'll start your questions. Anyone's got any questions, do start getting them in the chat, because we're probably going to get to the Q&A in like 15 minutes. Game Week 9 conversation is basically going to be Q&A. You guys need to let us know your dilemmas. I've also put a poll on YouTube. I think it says, are you on triple captain this game week?
Nice.
Have you already used it, or have you saved it for next time? So let us know if you're one of those 3 options, and we can see the poll results at the end. Let's timestamp this 28 minutes where we actually go into FPL. I feel like this is our final farewell to the photo of us at Juice. So let's see what's next, what's in store for us. So this was your game week 8, I believe. I think you had a similar score. You're doing better than me. For one, you have a 5-digit rank, or maybe you have a 6-digit rank. I have a 7-digit rank. Yeah. I'm so not used to 7-digit ranks talking to you about 3-digit ranks.
I'm not used to having 6 digits at this start of the season. So
yeah, it's a good start. Yeah, for sure. I think anything in the top million by game week 10 is a good place to be to attack the rest of the season. So you got your red card here. For the podcast viewers, I'll quickly just mention. So Flecken in goal, Saliba, Konate, Lewis back line, Mbeumo, Rogers, Palmer, and Dibbling. Delap, Watkins, and Holland. Saka auto sub to the bench. Greaves injured for a month, I hear now. I also have that problem. Dunk, 6 points on your bench, and Verbugen, 10 points on your bench. So how does that feel? Was that like a grey arrow for you? Like, did you move much rank, or do you not really care about rank, as you said earlier?
I care about mini leagues, and I dropped 22 points behind your mate Dread.
22 points, okay.
Yeah, and then I ended up, because of sells on Monday for talking to Fire Talk, getting you couldn't make this crap up. He had Verbruggen on the bench as well, and then he had Sells, and he was like, "Oh yeah, he said somewhere in Discord or something that he was not happy with the fact that he's got Verbruggen on the bench. He never expected it, and then bloody Sells beats him by 1 point. I've never in the history of fantasy football that I've played ever seen someone have a goalkeeper on the bench and the starting goalkeeper having the same amount of points as the whole of his outfield team. Nima.
That is disgusting. Yeah, when you look at the points distribution in that team, Jesus Christ.
Whereas in this, seeing Verbruggen getting, you couldn't make it up. Could I see Brighton winning against Newcastle? Yeah. But to keep a clean sheet in a 1-0 win, I don't know what the swearing's like on this, but I'm just going to say clear.
Oh, no, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good. First 30 seconds is the only time we have any major rules.
And don't say the C word, I know that much, but I find it really, I think that's Adam on Juice made the point that I'm more concerned about Newcastle than I am about Newcastle assets. There's something going on there where they are not having, they're getting results, but I think that result against Brighton tells me more about Newcastle being bad than Brighton just ticking along and doing very, very well. But to win 1-0,
Newcastle have been, I think it's a tough situation for them to be in. Yeah, like I went heavy on them at the start of the year. I think I had all three. I had triple up. So I've got rid of all of them obviously now, but yeah, painful memories for me. I don't think I can see myself going there for a while. How many transfers do you have, I guess? Like, so going into game
I've already done them. I did the -4 on Sunday.
So in that case, let me just switch to your current team that you said that I didn't put in the slides. But so is this after the transfers? You got Ait Nouri?
I did. And that was it. It was Ait Nouri and Foden in for Saka and Saliba. I had my hand forced. Basically, I was always, because Ray, as you know, a good friend of yours, he is kind of my consultant, and we have these discussions, whether it's on the Patreon that we do or whether it's on streams, and we go into depth about what he thinks about my transfer plans and what I think about his thought processes, and give or take, we pretty much on the same level. And the plan for me this week was pretty much just to do Foden in for Saka. That was what I was going to do, pretty much guaranteed. But I wanted to see what Foden would do against Wolves. And then I knew that I wanted to get Ait Nouri in the next, whether it's this week or the week before. Then once I see Saliba's out for, when is he back in Newcastle? Is he back for the Newcastle
It's
game?
one ban, yeah. It's just one game, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought, well,
but still, yeah, like you're going to potentially lose money there as well.
Well, this is it. Their fixtures aren't great. There's a chance I'm going to lose money. He looked like he was going to be dropping down in price anyway. I don't want to be losing too much value whatsoever. Foden, there's a chance he may go up, but Saka's definitely going to go down in price. I mean, he's still at 10 million as of now, but he did go down in price last night. And I just thought, it's Southampton at home. And Shane made a point on the stream the other day where he was just like, Foden has to play. He's the only creative one in that Man City team that will help Haaland do bits. And I will not be surprised tonight if Haaland tonight goes and gets a brace and Foden does something tonight. But I really do expect Man City to, or more specifically, they should be beating Southampton anywhere between 5 and 9-0. But I have this gut feeling it's going to end up like 2 or 3-0, just some boring, dull game where Haaland gets a goal, Foden gets just an assist or something. But moving forward, I'm happy holding on to Foden for their upcoming decent fixtures. Ait Nouri, as Ash was talking about last night, or was it Nick? I can't remember now. It really doesn't matter. Their fixtures upcoming for Wolves are really, really good as well. I'm very happy. And the plan, essentially the plan is then in game week 10, it would be potentially to move Foden out. Potentially, Ray says, for Diaz of Liverpool.
I was thinking maybe Mo Salah. So I bought Foden last week. I did actually Diaz to Foden, and I had to fund it. So to fund it, it was a bit of a painful one as well. But it's just my problem, right, Steve? I've got Calvert-Lewin to your Delap, I suppose, and I felt like I couldn't sell him when he had 2 promoted teams in the next 3. So he's obviously played one of them. Can't believe I still don't have no points. Every other alternative at his price point looks more appealing to jump to. All of them. Like honestly, like there's just, but I also feel like I want to get one return from him before I like a farewell points return or something.
Yeah.
It's what I did with Henderson. Like he got me that 10-pointer, I think it was, and then when it was it Crystal Palace, Man United, and then I just sold him on the wild card. I've suffered long enough with Calvert Lewis since game week 6, and I need to get 8 points fucking return before I sell him. So I think I'll give him the next 2, and then I might look at talking about Wolves, Mateus Cunha. I really like him. Yeah, so I really like it. I think I might look there. I've got Havertz right now and Saka, so I might, like you, lose some Arsenal players this week. I have 2 free transfers, so maybe I'll be following your path. But with someone who's already got Foden, I am already like not sure. Well, like, I'm happy for this game, but I don't know long term if I want to hold a player who I need more minutes for that price for me.
But... Well, this is exactly it. I said to Shane on the stream, because he kindly helped me cover for a watch along Wolves versus Man City, and let's not mess about here. Any Foden owners or anybody that brought him in for that Wolves game, you were very fortunate to get the assist. It was literally the last kick of the game. Done. You got it. Whatever.
And it's like, and they're checking it as well and everything. Yeah.
If Foden doesn't start against Southampton at this point, I'm just going to have to hold my hands up and go, I'm never bringing him in again. And
this has happened to me before with him, and I said it 2 weeks ago. I think when I did the Game 7 episode, I told someone I think it was Brad, maybe FPL Mayor, or he was on, and I was just saying, look, like I can't. Like I was like, I can't do it. I've been through this too many times. But I went there. Like when I was selling Diaz, I had the choice of Son or Foden. And Son had 3 home games in 4. He was more likely to have penalties than Foden. Everything looked good, right? But then I was like, I don't know if it was the bias as an Arsenal fan. I still went for Foden despite the 3 away games. And one of them was for this Southampton home game. So
yeah,
I've kind of been hoping that the fact he didn't start last game would maybe put some people off getting him this week, so that at least I didn't get him when he like doesn't do so well, and then everyone owns him when he does well. So I was hoping he'd stay differential, but I want to let you know, Steve, in the chat they've told us that he's already scored a goal tonight, I think, for Man City in the Champions League. So hopefully he won't score too many more and become the biggest band.
It happens every single week. If a popular player like you expect to do really well does nothing in the Premier League game, the following match, whether it's a Premier League game or any other competition, they will do what you expected them to do. I can't get my Alex Volo, as a lot of people know, he's very differential when it comes to his choices, and he watches a hell of a lot of football. He studies it. He knows all the analytics, and because of the eye test, he can see where weaknesses are in various teams. And this week he decided to triple captain Haaland, and as in against Wolves, it obviously completely failed. We all had a laugh at him. Well, I did anyway, but I said, I bet you, though, against Southampton, he's now going to do what you expected him to do against Wolves.
Yeah, is that just Sod's law that it happens that way
Sod's laws, yeah, it's crazy. And the amount of times that I've had a player in which I've expected them to do well against X team. Or, you know what? You lot, Arsenal, are the perfect example. Don't expect them to get... Sorry, we expect them to get clean sheets against the likes of Southampton, Leicester, and so on. They get nothing. In the Champions League, though, win by 0,
every week.
Win to 0. It's laughable.
It is quite frustrating, I can imagine. It is a tough one, though, to be in. In terms of other people to quickly shout out while we go to keep up. Siggy Taylor, evening. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, Foden goal. Also a Rafinha goal for Barcelona. Matthew Eziashi, good evening, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. And PK7, hello. And then, yeah, Gary says, slowly coming towards FPL. So, yeah, we made it to FPL. It only took about 30 minutes, but we got there. I think it took 30 minutes. 28th minute I timestamp FPL. That's it's a new record even for me, Steve-O. But whenever I say they're going to be an hour, sometimes they go for like 2 hours. I know when I came.
Well, your one with Trigger Lips lasted an hour and 50, I think it was. I was on a walk listening in, and I literally said to myself as I was walking, I was like, when you said words to the effect of, right, we're coming to the end, I was like, oh, great. Because you're not going on for another hour.
Yeah, it's like it's gonna. You were worried it would go to the 3-hour marathon we were talking about earlier. Cool. So you made your moves. Let's have a quick look at. We'll put this as a timestamp. If you're listening on podcast, you can check out the projected goal and clean sheet odds from RobTFPL on X. So we'll put that as 39th minute. Yeah, so anything in here that really surprises you or anything worth pointing out? So for podcast viewers, I think teams predicted to score the most goals on the model is kind of 3.35, 2 for Man City, 2.15 goals for Brighton, 2.1 for Chelsea, 1.95 for Tottenham, Aston Villa 1.85, Brentford 2, Man United 1.7. Those are the top teams for the goals. Clean sheet wise, there's only really one team with any odds that are worth talking about, and it's 50% for Man City for clean sheet. Apart from that, joint second is Brighton and Brentford with 32% odds for clean sheet, followed swiftly by Forest and Villa with 28% each. So not much really going on in defense this week. That's the main thing it calls out for me, Steve-O. But I don't know if there's any of these teams maybe that you're surprised about.
Brighton, they're not keeping a clean sheet against Wolves. It's not happening. Again,
well, is that because you Verbruggen on your bench again?
Well, this is the thing. It's the whole. This isn't why I've put Verbruggen on the bench, but it's the whole sod's law thing, isn't it? No one expects Brighton to keep a clean sheet against Newcastle, so we'll bench their assets. But this week, when they're playing Wolves, they've lost 2-1. It happens every single bloody week. I'm only playing Flecken this week because it's just a simple fact that I'm looking to gift horse in the mouth here. Now, even though I'm playing Delap against Brentford, but it's literally just. I'm just hedging the bets, to be completely honest with you. Am I going to play Dibbling ahead of Delap? I was tempted to maybe play Dunk as a set piece threat against Wolves ahead of Delap, but I just thought, no, just stick with Delap, be stubborn with it. I mean, from my point of view, I know obviously you use this protected goals and clean sheets odds from betting and whatnot. I always do this line on EliteFPL where I pride myself on my predictions, and for me, the teams likely to keep a clean sheet for me would be probably the likes of Everton at home to Fulham or Fulham against Everton. So a clean sheet for one of those two.
I feel like one of those teams will get the clean sheet. Yeah, I see what you mean. That the odds are much higher. It's just which one is hard to call.
I think the Brentford game, if there's one game to probably keep a clean sheet in, they have to be targeting that. Basically, to win 2-0, 2-0, 3-0, it really doesn't matter. I'd like to think Aston Villa, that's another team, can't keep a clean sheet in the Premier League, but when it comes to the Champions League, we'll keep clean sheets every single bloody week. I think they should keep a clean sheet against Bournemouth. I think there's a good chance. And also, Arsenal versus Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that's the game that Gabriel's a big headache for me, because obviously you've sold Saliba, whereas for me, I've got Gabriel, Trent, and Mikalenko, and it feels like I should either sell Trent or bench one of Trent or Gabriel for Mikalenko. It just feels like I should be doing that. I don't know what you think about that dilemma.
Is that your luxury dilemma? Is it? Because that is what the word luxury is designed for.
Well, as in I'm playing Trent and Gabriel right together at the moment. And I have Saka and Havertz in the lineup. So I've got 4 players in that game, and it's the last game of the game week. I'm going to be at it as well. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do with these Saka news. Do I keep Havertz? All these things are going through my head.
As an Arsenal fan, is Saka going to play? Do you know? Is any news?
I think he will. I think he's been in some kind of training, and then they it's all going to be like the opposite of what Arteta says, in my opinion. So like where he's now saying we don't know about Sunday, it's kind of like that makes me feel more confident. But it's not just that; it is actually because as these cartel members that apparently everyone is these days, I feel that there is going to be more info closer to the deadline, and it's a home game. So you're not going to get
3 days before.
I guess it's on the Friday, but either way, like even now on the Wednesday, I have reason to think that like he should make it. Like that's what they're targeting for that game. Like I think he could have been forced to make it for the Champions League, but it was decided to save him.
What's the severity of the injury? Because this is going to be a high-pressured game and a very high.
Yeah. So I think it was a hamstring, if I'm not mistaken, maybe. And like the type of injury it looked like it was, it would have taken you at least a couple of weeks from when he got sent home from the England camp to like fully feel okay. But yeah, I think people are worried because it's obviously been worse than it was made out to be at first. But part of me thinks that is that because this is the rest he's getting because there's no other way to give him rest. So it's like just protect him till the game. So I almost feel like I'm pretty confident in the start. If I was going to sell one of them, at the moment, I think it'll be more likely to be Havertz than Saka personally. I think if Saka's not playing, I'll get my first sub like last week. Last week I got Rodgers off the bench, very fortunately. Otherwise, God knows what score I would have had. But yeah, overall, I don't know. Like I'm pretty. Let me just have a look at my team. So yeah, I've had your team up. So my team, yeah, I guess I can share it. I suppose, like I shared yours, just very quickly to help you visualize like my dilemma. It might make more sense. Yeah, so this is kind of where I'm at. Like I have 2 free transfers, and I'm trying to zoom in maybe. Yeah, so I don't know. Like there's not much I really see myself doing. Do you know what I mean about the Trent thing? Like, I kind of feel like maybe playing Mikalenko instead of Gabriel, talking about your Arsenal clean sheet point. And then do I use the Trent downgrade to get to like a Palmer for a Saka if he's out and then just keep Havertz? So there's all these different thoughts in my head. Like I got 2 free transfers. If Saka and Havertz were fit, I would potentially roll and just bench one of Trent Gabriel for Mikalenko. So I don't know what you think now that you've seen it more visually.
I have one rule in FPL, which is never bench your premium team players ever. And one player that always springs to mind was Azpilicueta. Every single time they would play the likes of Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Man City, Azpilicueta would always pop up with either a goal or an assist. And it's the same with all these players. It's like Gabriel against Man City. You know, it pops out of nowhere. I don't care how much time they spend on set pieces.
Yeah, 15 points against Tottenham, 7 points against Man City.
This is the thing. And everybody says beforehand in there, all these streamers and whatnot say, oh, do I dare play Gabriel because, there's a likelihood of them conceding. And I don't know why. I just find benching premium players is always a no. In fact, talking of this week, I took the risk of playing Dibbling ahead of Rodgers. I took that punch.
Same. I was so upset before the Saka out the squad.
Yeah. So then, of course, it came down to, oh my God, please let the Saka news be true that he's not travelled with the squad or whatever, please, because then I can get these Rodgers points off the bench. Because I've made a complete cock up with playing Dibbling. And, as by all accounts, again, talking to Talk Sport, listening into it, yeah, Dibbling had a very good game, a very talented youngster. But the truth of the matter is that you do not play him over someone like Rodgers, who's in form, plays for a premium team like Aston Villa, and has got a strike partner in Ollie Watkins. Now, admittedly, they were playing Fulham. I was shocked at the result being 3-1. But for you, I personally think you can either just hold and just be like, well, there's a lot of people. I mean, Andy Martin, that was on our stream last night, he has kind of a similar team to you. It's, Trent Robertson, Koleosho coming close there. Trent, nice. Robertson, Havertz, Saka, all in the same team. He's expecting this game week to be an absolute shitter. And he's just going, look, I just want to go into the next week with 2 free transfers, 3 free transfers. Now, he's already got a plan where he wants to, by game week 11 or 12, have 5 free transfers. But for you, if you can just get into game week 10 with this team and just get through it.
Free transfers, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, right, what did Foden do against Southampton? Did he even play?
Yeah, then I could, because if it's like looking really shady on Foden by then, I don't want to be like making like a Saka to Palmer or Son move this week if actually I'm going to end up keeping Saka and it's like Foden that makes way for a.
What's your money in the bank? Sorry.
At the moment, it's probably like $1 million, I guess, or something. No, 0.7. So I can pretty much go from anyone to anywhere in one move as well.
So you can do Saka to Palmer if.
I don't know about to Palmer.
I don't think you can you?
No, he's 0.1 short. I can do it.
This is great to hear as a rival. This is brilliant. This is
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So I can't copy you to get Palmer and block you from catching me, or you're ahead of me. If anything, I need to catch
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
So maybe I need to get Son win one free trade. If I felt that Saka's definitely not going to be there, then I would be getting Son, because I don't really like, my cover would be Mikalenko, right? So if Saka didn't play in this team, Mikalenko will sub in, which it gets rid of my benching headache. But
I
would I
think
prefer to have Son?
I think Son's still to watch because he's not playing tomorrow, is he? He's been ruled out.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not
he
saying he's
wasn't in
been ruled out.
training, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's an injury where he won't play him against Crystal Palace. I'd expect him to start. But I think Son, after returning, how long was he out for? 3 weeks?
Yeah, and then he obviously just came back, and then it's like it clearly is
Yeah.
like maybe giving him a recurrence of the thing he's recovering from in the first place.
Yeah, Crystal Palace ain't going to be an easy fixture. It really isn't. Can I see Tottenham winning? Yes. But it ain't going to be like, oh, Hull have just fucking scored.
Have they scored?
I hate
It's
those
1-0
types
to
of
Hull.
goals.
Shit, 1-0. You still got time though, right? First half?
Yeah, but we can't score. That's the problem. I predicted this game to be 0-0, 1-1, or 1-0 either way, and this is how it's going to end up. We
No, the
can't
1-1.
score.
We'll be optimistic. 1-1 is still on the cards.
It's those types of goals. It's a long range effort that takes a bit of a deflection, a bump off the ground, and the goalkeeper in this case, Trafford, gets misplaced and is
completely wrong.
Yeah, it takes a big deflection. Well, not a big deflection, but
enough to throw him. That's a shit. I did like Trafford, actually. Speaking of Trafford,
good shot stopper.
Yeah, he's one to watch as an England goalkeeper going forwards into the future, and see how he develops as well. Okay, so you kind of, before I took my team on screen, but now back on the projected odds.
Can I just interrupt? Just interrupt you for a second.
On this.
Just interrupt you for a second there. So I always like using whoscored.com because that kind of goes into my history about playing fantasy football. I've used whoscored.com for years for stats and everything, but their history against Tottenham, Crystal Palace, is crap. So actually, maybe Son is the best move to get.
If Saka was definitely out, if he was definitely out, I think it would be hard to resist.
I'll be honest with you, looking at Arsenal's upcoming fixtures in Newcastle, Chelsea, and obviously this Liverpool game, I think for a 3-week, it's not even a punt, but a 3-week era in which Tottenham have got Crystal Palace, okay, it's Aston Villa, but Tottenham are scoring goals for fun, and then Ipswich.
Yeah, Ipswich, that's the one.
I still think Son's a wait and see. I think I'd be more inclined to buy Johnson, but it's a nice option to go for in Son. I mean, what has Son done?
There's also the Solanke option, right? So the alternative is, I was looking at Solanke, but now I'm not sure if I'd want him. I feel like I'd more likely want Johnson or Son as the player I would want from Spurs, and I don't think I want the double up. So then that kind of leaves the question of, so what do I do with Havertz? Because I was just telling you how I like Cunha. I was telling you how all these other players like Wood, Raul, they're all doing stuff, whereas Calvert-Lewin isn't. I just can't sell Calvert-Lewin before Southampton.
Solanke for me...
Yeah, what would you think about Solanke?
Solanke for me doesn't feel like one of those players that will get you a double-digit haul. I don't know why. He just doesn't. Whereas Son and Johnson and even Kulusevski, they do feel like players that will get you that double-digit return. And this season, I'm just looking at it here with Son. He scored the other day, but he got a 10-pointer against Brentford at home. Everton, he got a 6. I didn't realise Son had done that this season. Wow. We know he's a home player, Son. And he's away at Crystal Palace next, where they've got a really good record. I think for you, it's a dilemma it's a nice dilemma to have. It really is a lovely...
It's a luxury moment, right? Because I could roll if everyone was fit, but it just depends to me. Like, if I get any info, hopefully the cartel will enlighten me this week. Because last week when I did the Diaz to Foden move, I didn't get the memo about the Saka to Son move. I could have done both at the same time. Why didn't I know about it? I thought I was in the know. How things have fallen.
Think personally, based on the fixtures, I think the Saka to Son move is, seeing as you've got 2 free transfers, just do that.
But here's what I mean, right? Because Steve, in previous seasons before the rule change, I wouldn't have even had the thought of should I roll. I would have just done that move, right? I was like, let me get the most gain I can on this fixture swing. And yet in this season where I can roll, I'm telling myself, oh, I could do like more valuable moves later with more info, more moves. And it's almost like I don't want to forget that sometimes I need to attack the week ahead of me as well to keep the momentum. Like I don't need to roll just because I can, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like I reckon 3 free transfers is more valuable than 2 free transfers. But I don't know how much more exponentially 4 free transfers or 5 free transfers is than 3 free transfers.
Yeah.
So I agree that it goes up in value, but I think the distribution of this way the value goes up is more weighted towards that first jump from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. Like 4 to 5 and that, like I don't think there's so much. So yeah, maybe I just need to use the move and not.
Yeah, the
like,
hard thing.
Forget the new rules.
Yeah, the hard thing for you as well is that after this game versus Arsenal, Liverpool's fixtures are pretty decent. They are pretty decent.
So that's where the other flip side comes, right? Like, do I then maybe ditch someone like a Trent to try and fund the Salah for where Foden is if I decided I can't trust Foden? Or do I potentially even get rid of Haaland? Because if KDB is going to be gone for a while, maybe I don't want to have Haaland after game week 9 for a couple of weeks. Maybe he's got Bournemouth, Brighton away, Tottenham home, Liverpool away. So
this for me, this game against Southampton, I think for everybody is going to be one of those where it's right. What did Haaland do?
And if he gets the future decisions, yeah.
Well, this is the thing. If he does what we expect him to do, which is a minimum of two returns, then we're going to think, cool, he got a goal assist in a 5-0 win. Brilliant. And then we can still continue with him for the Bournemouth, Brighton, even the Tottenham game at a push. However, if Man City look like they were against Wolves, which is just this, they just seem to have a lack of ideas and Haaland's just not involved. They end up winning 3-0 and Haaland gets a goal. I think at this point, we all then need to look at just sacking him off. And like you said, bringing in Salah and then replacing Haaland with someone like you've just mentioned, Cunha.
Yeah, because, so that's where I feel like, imagine Haaland straight to Cunha, Salah in for anyone in the midfield with that money. And then, you could just change things up, right?
Yeah, because I've got written down on my little book, wherever it is right here, is that I've got written down here for it's slightly changed because originally I was going to do Saliba to Vardy, but I thought I don't really want double Man City defence moving forward. I'd rather attack the attack and have Foden in. And then I had for game week 10 a -4, Saka to Diaz and Dunk to 8 Nuri, but that ain't happening now. So in game week 10, I'm looking at how Foden performs against Southampton. If it just looks like a lost cause for me, then it will be looking at probably Foden out for whomever. And then in game week 11, I'll be doing, what's his face, Delap to Cunha. That is pretty much because Delap's got in game week 10 a good fixture against Leicester at home. And like Ray said to me, you don't want to be getting rid of the home fixture against Leicester.
And both those teams are going to be targeting that game, right, as their 3-pointer for them, just like you said about Brentford for their clean sheet. They're going to be targeting certain games.
Yeah, and Cunha's got Southampton at home in game week 11. So I can do that move. And then after that, I'm going to be like, right, I can now reevaluate everything. It's game week 12. We've come out of the... In fact, I'm just looking at it here, actually. That'll be after the international break. Where am I?
So it's game week 11 the before, and then that's the international break, then game week 12. Okay.
Yeah. So I will come out of the game week 12 and see where I am. If I'm still there or thereabouts where I am right this second, which doing okay in mini leagues and doing okay in the high rankings, at that point I'm thinking, I'm making the right decisions. However, if it all just goes completely tits up, I'm then thinking, right, what can I do to drastically change anything? But this season, I must say that I am playing very, very template. I'm just
compared
doing
to how you normally play.
I wouldn't say how I normally play, because over the past few seasons, unfortunately, I mean, I've really had to be very, very strong this season and stop consuming FPL content. All I do, Nima, is listen to Juice, and that is it.
Because otherwise you feel like it's going to change your decision making.
100%. You've hit the nail on the head.
I think I tend to agree. Yeah, I think I listen more for entertainment reasons, and I want to avoid, but you're right, subconsciously you will still end up potentially thinking to do certain moves based on like what you hear.
When you're listening to take Planet FPL as an example, when you're listening to two people that are very knowledgeable and informative about the game, they will almost, like you've just said, subconsciously for me, change my thought process on, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't go with this player. Maybe I should go with that player instead. I mean, it was last season in that double game week for Arsenal when I said on Patreon, I said, I'm getting Ben White, I'm getting Ben White, I'm getting Ben White. And then I just fell for the content creator wave of get Gabriel, he's the safest choice. What happens? Ben White goes and gets 26 points or whatever it was, and Gabriel gets 12. And I do hold my hands up and say that when it came to listening into content creators' stuff, I was swayed by what they were saying because I respected their opinion. And I'm thinking, what do I know actually? This guy knows his shit. And yet I'm thinking this, but he does really well at the game here. Actually, maybe he's onto something. I'll change it. 9 times out of 10, Nima, I was the one that was right.
And then you end up regretting all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I always reference Bilal, who says to me this time, he went, Steve-O's decision making is really, really good. I just wish he went through with it. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to end up in the top 10K, the top 5K. It would mean, though, that I'd probably be about 200,000 to 300,000 places better off, which at that point bumps me up a lot, obviously a lot more higher up the ranks, and probably makes my rank history even more respectable. But because I've acknowledged the fact that I'm susceptible to being weak and the temptation of being swayed by others, this season I've just gone, I'm sticking to my thought process. For instance, in game week 4, I said, I'm not having Haaland. It didn't matter how many times Ray was going, I've got you this wildcard team, it's got Haaland and Salah in. I've got you this wildcard team, it's got Haaland and Palmer in. Every single team I had, and I went, I'm not having him. I'm not having him. I'm not having him. Now, Ray then came to me and said after Haaland blanked against whoever it was in game week 6 and Palmer got that 25-point return, he went, Steve-O, you've won. You've came out of this Haalandless team, and now you're going to be bringing him back for the next 3 fixtures. Unfortunately for all of us, he's done nothing.
For all 3, yeah.
Even people like Andy Martin, who have been
got him.
Who didn't have him, but then they thought, right, it's Wolves and Southampton. Got nothing against Wolves, and now he's against Southampton, where we expect him to do something. But if he doesn't, Nima, like without wanting to repeat myself, but I will, we are all going to have to
fire exit. Yeah,
we have to. We have
fire sale coming, hopefully. So on that note, we will talk about triple captain in the Q&A just to see what the poll responses. We'll end the poll and see what you think about a triple captaincy. Some people did it in game week 2 against Ipswich with Haaland and did very well for them. This is another opportunity home against Southampton, probably one of the higher odds of goals for the rest of the season in a single game week. So we'll talk about that. But before that, I just want to quickly thank all the members, Steve-O, and also just plug the like. So we're 1 hour in. If you guys have enjoyed this, laughed along with us, at us, learned something, entertained you, whatever it is, do hit that like button, please, on YouTube. Subscribe if you're new around here. We'll be doing this every week on Wednesday. Have lots of friends coming on, just chatting, casual conversation like today. Sometimes 10 minutes about FPL, sometimes 1 hour about FPL. But I find these ones more fascinating when I get to learn how someone got into FPL, why they like this hobby, because that's what brings us together, and that's what the FPL meets offline are all about as well, right? So quick couple of thank yous, and then we'll get to the live Q&A and the poll for captaincy. So all our master key holders, we've got Greenback Golf, Gary Horwood, David Harrison, Roberto Mangonsung, We got our key holders. I keep calling them haulers still. I've like, this is what happens when you don't finish the rebrand properly from Net That Haul to Locked In FPL. I still have the wrong membership name. So key holders as well. So Podner, Kevin Rose, Blonde, FPL Teacher, Tom Gorsuch, Lindsay, Dom, Claire FPL, Tusks, Catherine A, Harry Not Kane, Benjamin Lockwood, FPL Discomfort, Grady, Jasper and Singh, BW Splitter, the FPL Juice Show, and our Patreons, Elron, FPL California, Mike Burke, and Dr. Greenfarm. Thank you all for your support. Yeah, so we've kind of got the thank yous out the way. We've got the plugs for the like and subscribe out the way, guys. And we're going to go to the Q&A, I think, Steve. There's a good one from Harbour Boy, actually, from the Discord. So we'll start with that. And then we'll go to the ones that I've starred in the live chat. So if you've got any final questions, do please get to me. We're going to cover them and get out of here in the next 5 minutes. So Harbour Boy, this is a good one for you, Steve. Question for both of us. I'll let you go first. If you won tickets to the Premier League match of your choice, which one would you choose?
Under Klopp, Liverpool under Klopp, it would be Man City versus Liverpool. They were fantastic, just end to end. What game would
Who would it be against? Yeah, who would it be against?
I don't really. Potentially Arsenal versus Tottenham for the atmosphere.
Would you go to the home? Which home stadium would you go to?
Arsenal.
Yeah. Okay. So
Arsenal mainly because I don't.
That's
like
a hard ticket to get. Fair enough. It's a hard ticket to get. I got one once. I actually won it from a mini league. So imagine a mini league I won gave me a prize to a game, and I was like, surely it's not a game of my choice. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, but the Arsenal Tottenham game's in a few weeks. Like, it's a bit late. Everything's sold out. They were like, it's not sold out if you are willing to pay any price. I was like, what do you mean? And then they sent me these 2 tickets, Steve. You're going to be baffled here, right? It's actually sickening, the touting that is going on. I think it cost like 1,600 euros, Steve, for these 2 tickets in the lower tier of the North Bank. And it was one of the experiences of my lifetime. Like, I don't think I'll ever be able to get like those kind of tickets again. So I can see why you would pick that game in that stadium. But imagine that I got that as an FPL prize. And I'm thinking, wow, like that's better than what the winner of the whole game gets. Fucking hell. I got to pick the game and everything instead of chasing them for 2-3 years for their game of choice.
I certainly, I mean, if we were to go, even if this isn't the question, even if we were to go with this week's fixtures, I certainly wouldn't be picking Everton versus Fulham.
I wouldn't mind. I'm trying to think this week, so I wouldn't mind going to Chelsea home.
Yes, Chelsea Newcastle. Yeah.
On TV, Stamford Bridge. That would be quite fun. I haven't been to the Amex Stadium, so but yeah, we're not talking about this week. We're saying any game, anytime. So, you're Arsenal, Tottenham, Arsenal. I would say for me, it's not actually any specific teams. It's a final of an international tournament. So I think for me, it would be like a World Cup final more so than anything else. Because it was actually the 1998 World Cup, Steve, that got me really into football. And I had FIFA 98 as well. And it was the World Cup edition, and Iran, I could play as them in it. I was 8 years old. We beat the USA in the group stages. We were out in Kensington after I see loads of other Iranians and Persians celebrating. It was just, and that was the same year Michael Owen scored against Argentina. So I was really into him. And I just really fell in love with football. But then I played Pro Evo for years, up until 2004 FIFA. And then I kind of took a little bit of a break from football, if I'm honest with you. When I turned about 15, 16, 17, I was more interested in kind of like meeting people, going out, like trying to chat to girls, all that kind of stuff that you do. And I kind of fell out of love with football a bit because I wasn't gaming as much as well. And it also was, I guess, the years after the Invincibles when, Arsenal lost the Champions League final. Ship was a bit dead. 2010 at uni now, it's World Cup again, I think. And I watched that. I think it was South Africa. And again, it got me back into football. And we used to play the FIFA demo at in the kind of student accommodation with everyone because we couldn't be bothered to play for the full game. And people ended up playing the demo with us more over the year than their full copies because our demo had 3-minute halves that you don't get in the real game. So, and you only had 6 teams. So it was like Arsenal, Dortmund, AC Milan. And we would just be like passing the controller, getting 3-minute halves that you couldn't get otherwise on this demo. So long story short, that's why it's the World Cup, because it was football was something I fell in love with at a World Cup. And it's also what brought me back to football again after a small break. So yeah, and gaming like you, that's where it all really began, to be honest. the gaming part, I would say, is a key component. Hours and hours of Pro Evo and FIFA, and eventually you fall in love with football no matter what. So yeah, I think other than that, I would say I'd love to see an El Clasico. So like I'd love to like watch Real Madrid Barcelona at the Camp Nou or something.
I thought the question was Premier League only, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is Premier League, but yeah, I'm just So now
yeah, breaking the rules there.
Well, I'm saying World Cup, El Clasico, shit, Premier League. Premier League was Arsenal Tottenham like you, but I went to it now. I think now it would be an away game that is hard to get. So I'm just trying to think. I would love to go to Anfield. So I've never been to Anfield. So I'm going to say Arsenal away at Anfield. I would love to go to that game.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's do these questions in the chat. We have only 2 or 3 of them, Stephen, and then we're going to get out of here. So SK says, was there double game weeks back then? You know, it was from like the Scout Forum days. Who was the Ben Crellin of the era? Or did you just find out through your game? I think back then, Ben Crellin was still the Ben Crellin of the era. It's just his posts were being shared on like other forums or like on Twitter, even back 2020, I remember, and Reddit. But yeah, I think he's always been the GOAT of the chip strategy and double game week.
Well, again, because of social media, it's one of the very few things that's good about it is that I remember when we for the second season of Elite FPL, which would have been the 2019-2020 season, and I was made aware of Planet FPL, and they released a podcast about chip strategy. And apparently it was like one of the best podcasts, blah, 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 blah. Now they're notorious for it. Everybody's like waiting for it nowadays.
Every season, the Chip podcast is the one.
Yes. For sure. Yeah. And I remember being made aware of it. And I think really from that 2019-2020 season, that's when, I mean, those next 3 seasons, 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022, I mean, yeah, I had a decent rank in 21-22, 42k, but those seasons, especially 19, 20, 2020, 21, the Corona era, just, I was consuming too much content. It was ridiculous. And yeah, it's back in the early days of FS Scout when I was using it in the early, not even noughties, in the 10s or whatever you want to bloody call it. You always had people helping you with your double game week strategies and like you said
spreadsheets or planning
ahead. Yeah, it was all. I mean, I remember Lego Mane. I remember.
Yeah.
him.
Oh yeah, the graphics. Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, because of FS Scout, it was the first FPL content I consumed via podcast, which was Mark and Granville, and I would play Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And I would just be playing zombies while listening to Mark and Granville just having a conversation. Absolutely fantastic. And it was when
the OG shows, yeah.
Well, yeah, but it was a time which was innocent in the sense of they were literally just chatting to one another on a platform and released it on FS Scout. And I absolutely loved it. I remember coming across who got the assist at the time. And I was obsessed with their show back then because they've been going on for absolute. People don't realise these podcasts, these people have been around
for 10 years, 8 years. Yeah. They've been pushing this through love from the beginning.
Precisely. And these people, the thing is, back then, the information that they were talking about was just your everyday regular guys like me and you chatting about football, and you would just pick up on things and then you would use your own mind to make your decisions. Whereas nowadays, unfortunately, like you've just mentioned, this, I'm not disparaging what these people do. Of course, I'm not. They're very.
There's a lot of spoon feeding. Yeah.
You just go. Oh, is there a double game week? Is there? All right, then. Done. Oh.
Yeah, it's like the chips are done for the next year already. Like you know, give it a few weeks here. We laugh, but in like a month or two's time, there'll be like a tweet that comes out and says, the 2025-26 season, game week 18 is going to be a blank because of this random match or Club World Cup or tournament.
Yes.
Like as soon as like a fixture gets out, it's so much info now. It gets spread so far and wide.
But it's why Trigger Lips and people like him that have a problem with the game these days, that it just hasn't adapted to the information. And I just think that the game's become so easy for the casual player. Like my friend, Mr. Reed, he's just above me, and he hasn't played the game for 2 or 3 weeks. And this week he had Martinez in goal, penalty save. He had, who else did he have in his team? There was a defender that scored this week.
Keane.
No. Someone else. I could bring it up right now, actually. His team was absolutely ludicrous. And it really
And
pissed me off.
All like crazy.
Well, this is the thing. Here we are. It is in a 3-2-1. I know this is really boring for anybody listening on the podcast. Oh, he's dropped below me. All right, okay, he's dropped below me now. But
nice.
He got 44 points this week. Oh, that's it. Vardiol. So he had Martinez, yes, Vardiol. He had Vardy and Watkins in his team. Hasn't touched his team for 2 or 3 weeks. Now, I'm not saying that he listens or watches any. In fact, he barely watches me anymore. But he's just playing the game as what most people do, which is who's got the most points, who's doing well in the Premier League. Right, choose that. Yep, done.
That's what I think we put so much energy into picking stuff in our team when we're so like unable to have any impact on the outcome once we actually pick these players. Like we're not going to change anything that happens on the pitch regardless of what we do, right? And most players, most managers from the 10 million or so people who play, if they've got a red card or an injury, or if they don't miss the deadline that given week, depending on the level of casual they are, they just open the game and then they'll see a flag and they'll click a remove player. It will show them the top scorers on page 1.
Yeah.
And then if they see someone really cheap that's in the top scorers list that they can afford, they might just get them. Or they just make decisions like based on whatever they feel. Like they don't need to deliberate over it and sit there like me in the lead up to deadline saying, do I go Foden? Do I go Son? Let me look at their heat maps. Let me look at their underlying stats. Let me look at all this other stuff, right? Their fixtures ahead. They don't worry about any of that.
Well, this is the thing. I think that the game itself, and I think I'd like to think you'd agree with me, is it's more for the casual player than it is for us people that take it really seriously, or the people that come to the FPL meets.
I think there's other games which have more engaging scoring, right? So it's kind of like if you were as obsessive as people want to be in the more niche parts of the community, like you could get more fun out of them. So it's funny because I love FPL and it's the one I spend the most time agonizing over. But I actually get the most joy from all these other formats I play because then I can have players in different draft leagues. I'm always happy something's going on the screen that I'm watching. And it's like, oh, I might have this guy in some other game.
I think deep down, and I think most people would admit it, whether it's you, me, or whatever, is that subconsciously it's because there's so much eyes on FPL. You want to do well at it because that's all people know FPL. People don't care about Telegraph game because there's only a small portion of people there. No one care about Sky. There's only a small portion of people that play it. And all these other fantasy games, it's such a small player market that barely gets advertised. But FPL is everywhere.
It's about the casual masses. Yeah, like you see on Sky now, right? You see it everywhere.
Even like some hip hop star, he'll have some YouTube channel that one episode he'll be like, oh, here's my FPL team. I'm sure. Who's that bloke that Dan FPL?
I know Stormzy plays as well. So
they only play.
KSI had the bet with Fella. Yeah, he did 1K bet.
Yeah, and these people, they don't play these really intricate like Ray does with Telegraph, or when I was playing Sky last year for the
it's like passing and tackling and bonus.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with these but yeah, they do so well, and it's about how you want to play, right? So that's the beauty of it. And I think, but that's the main thing. Like double game weeks back then, it was like there was still some art to it. But now the info is everywhere. Like even the app, it gives push notifications that will say like, don't miss the deadline. And these are the free players to buy from Man City for the double game week. And if you want a differential, this is the one. And then it's getting to the point, right? You know, it's gone mainstream when people like Joey Barton and these guys even now, they're out there retweeting videos of Sky where I saw like Holly Sham was on it. They're trying to criticize these FPL personalities for being on like mainstream media.
Oh, well, I did not know that because I've said it for years. I mean, I said this probably 10 years ago that there will be a day when you're watching a football match that it will pop up with how the players are doing in FPL. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but it will happen.
I've heard commentators recently once,
Yes,
or maybe
yes,
it was like a
yes.
radio commentary, I think, and they were like, "Oh, he'd be happy." They'll be like, "Oh, Steve will be happy if Foden gets that assist. Let's watch the replay because he's got him in his fantasy team, new signing this week." And like they'll just banter about it. And I'm like, "Okay, it's starting to creep up in American sports, in American fantasy sports, which is where it all comes from, the kind of largest player bases." Especially NFL, I think has like 40 million people play drafts NFL every year, and they have those stats. Like those stats are there. Like everything is on screen. Like their version of Soccer Saturday, there'll just be shit flying across the screen, all the data, BPS, like and you see it in some apps now. I think it's it might be FotMob, or I think that's the one I've checked it on. When you go to like a team or a match and you click on the lineup, there's actually a section that you can see the lineup in like a fantasy format.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's just crazy because I'm just going back to like last week just to see which, okay, so Monday, right? What was it? It was Forest Crystal Palace. Yeah, so in the lineup, mine is being shown by fantasy points rather
Oh
than
wow.
by normally they have the rating. The graphic
Yes.
actually just has like fantasy points for every player on the 22 players on the sheet instead of their actual like score out of 10.
Well,
It's
this is
getting
the
very
point.
mainstream.
And I'll never forget the line Praz said on Juice the other week, which was words to the effect of, the only advantage now that people like me and you and the people that are watching this and the real nerds of the game, shall we say, that take it seriously, the only advantage we've got is that we have the knowledge that, well, like you've just joked, but in game week 23 there's going to be a double game week for X player and we can plan for it. But I have certainly
But then
noticed
they will lock into things still, right? Because you'll plan for it, and by the time you get there, either they'll all have the player you're going to have, or the guy you bought earlier is injured, or you went for the more expensive and funded it with a strategic plan, and they just got the cheapest guy they could afford, and that one's the one that holds. And it used to happen in prior years. I remember getting like the Ezes, like the Zaha instead of the Ezes, or I remember getting the Patrick Van Aanholts instead of the Mitchells, and then like there'll be a double game week. Or like I remember getting Tarkovsky for Burnley, I think, instead of Loughton. And then like Loughton gets his first goal from his second shot on target in 8 years or something. And like, it's just, you couldn't make it up. And then I'm looking at my casual friend, he's like, just bought the cheapest guy, banged him in, double game week. Only found out it was happening one day before deadline. And I've planned like weeks in advance, bought certain players, got Veghorst into my team.
Well, you were asking about memory, so I've deliberately taken it down. But I don't know if you could put me on big camera or not. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
If you
let me
can't.
try.
But if you
Yeah, I
can,
think
that'd be great
I
because it
think I
had more
can.
effect.
How do I?
But
Maybe if I remember.
I was drawn. Sorry, Nuclear Atoms drew me this. It's of Kevin De Bruyne and Jacob Murphy, and it's when Kevin De Bruyne and Andy Martin's got the most famous one where he triple captained Kevin De Bruyne at that time in the double game week against Wolves and someone else. And I was one of the very few people to have him in our mini leagues and whatnot. And that's the thing. It's when you have that slight differential on the masses, it makes you feel so good inside. And most of my luck in this game has been terrible when it comes to my differentials, but certainly that time with KDB when he got that ridiculous double-digit
25 points, 4
yeah,
goals
and
against Wolves. Yeah,
Jacob Murphy I brought in for just I think it was like a one-off match, as a not even as a joke. I just thought he was like 5 million. I thought I really, really, really want to have a Newcastle asset against, I can't even remember who he was playing, and he came through with I think a goal and 2 assists.
Oh, you know what? It was it against Spurs when Isaac as well. It's that Jacob Murphy meme
Really, I
where
cannot
he's
remember.
got his mouth open and he's shocked about the goal he scored. Where he's like there's like a meme of Jacob Murphy with his mouth just open, like, and it's like straight after he scored. I don't know if you remember that meme, but I'll send it to you if you don't.
It's funny because Harbour Boys there making the point about I love how I solved my barcode problem on the wild card by getting in Greaves. Well, Harbour Boy last season, I don't know if you're aware or not how well he did, but he blew out every single Elite FPL mini league on the planet. He ended up in the overall rank as I just quickly bring up his team right now, he ended up last season, if I can do it really quickly, which is going really slow, 1,323rd in the world.
Wow. That is
He just
incredible.
said, and the way he plays this is pretty much, I just choose the players which I think are going to score the most points. Now, that may sound like a really obvious comment, but that's literally how he played it last year. Oh, Palmer's doing all right, bring him in. Oh,
Is that no
Foden's doing all right.
overthinking like us? Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say he doesn't overthink. I reckon he
Probably
potentially
does a
does.
bit because he loves the game. He definitely
He,
thinks
of
about it.
course, but certainly the way he was playing it last season was, yeah, just captain the obvious captain pick. Don't go for someone like Nick did this. I know he didn't own Haaland, but Nick owned he captained and Burma.
Yeah.
Against whoever it was. And whereas Harbour Boy, it's like Haaland's the obvious choice, Captain Haaland. Salah's the obvious choice, Captain Salah. That's really how you should play it. But I think a lot of us, like you've just mentioned, overthink this game a lot. And that's why this season for me, I'm not overthinking. I'm just going with my gut instinct and I'm just making logical decisions rather than just bringing in players for the sake of it because I think, oh, there's a chance, there's a punt he may do quite well when inevitably, like for instance, oh, shall I go Palmer, who's the key man to everything Chelsea do, or shall I go with a player that does well for Chelsea but is hit or miss in Madueke? Well, last season I would have gone Madueke. This season it's just stick with Palmer. Just stick with Palmer, Steve.
You don't want to be messing around with it anymore.
No.
Let's quickly say the poll results. Actually, so I've just ended the poll. It was, are you triple captain Haaland in Gameweek 9? So 54% of people are saving it. 24% are doing it, and 21% have already used it. So that's quite interesting. 33 responses. Thanks everyone for voting. Steve-O, we should get out of here. There is one question we're going to take from Tiggy because it's an FPL question. At least that way we'll feel like we did cover some FPL this episode. But I've enjoyed just thoroughly chatting to you about everything FPL and non-FPL. So quick one, Fatality says, our advantage is the secret WhatsApp groups. Hello, fellow cartel members. This one from Animations I'll say now just before we go because we'll wrap out with Tiggy's question. So Animation says, will the triple captain make people put off? So I think maybe 24% of people saying they're going to triple captain, right? Out of 33. It's not very many. It's a small sample size, 6 or 7 out of 30 people. Yeah, I think, would you let the current form of the last 3 blanks in the Premier League put you off? Like, is that a reason to? So you wouldn't triple captain. So
well, ironically,
I've
been advising in air quotes that this could be the next best option to be triple captaining Haaland in a single game week. To be completely frank, it's Southampton at home, a team which is leaking goals for fun. And I'm just quickly looking at Man City at the moment. Their result, it's still 1-0. It's still 1-0.
Something. Do you know what happened? Okay, it says they went 2 up and then it got ruled out.
Yeah, I've just seen that now. Yeah,
I don't know who scored though. Okay, Haaland at halftime, he'd had like 2 free shots on target, 2 block shots, 1 off target. Like it doesn't, like, I've not watched it obviously, but it paints a frustrated picture. 6 shots and not.
Well, this is exactly it, and it. Surprise, surprise! Barcelona battering Bayern Munich as I predicted. I think, unfortunately, without Kevin De Bruyne, clearly, and I said this on the stream the other day, that when certain teams lose their talisman, or they lose a really, really important player, whether it's to help with the defense or whether it's to help with the attack, it's no coincidence that that's when the main striker or the defenders start conceding goals or stop scoring goals. Is it coincidence that since Kevin De Bruyne has been out that Haaland stopped scoring? Probably, but actually there's signs there to say that maybe Kevin De Bruyne is the reason why Haaland stopped really scoring, or why Man City haven't been doing as well. And you could argue with Rodri as well.
I think the Rodri thing for me, that's probably like, it feels like they're trying to be more conservative, almost like overcompensating for his loss. So I do wonder if that changes. But let's Steve, let's get out of here. So this question from Tiggy Taylor is: they're on wildcard 9. This is the lineup: Mbeumo, Foden, Salah, Palmer, Son, with a forward line of Raul, Wissa, Lawson. Is Son worth it? We're going to keep this quick fire, and then we'll get to there's one more question from Danish as well. I think if you don't have Haaland, then and you maybe if you don't have Trent as well, if you have neither, then I think having Salah, Palmer, Son, and Foden is a very nice, heavy, expensive midfield four. And it's just nice. Like you can get anywhere in any other position with 2 moves in the future. Should you not want Son or decide he's not worth it, you can make that choice then. But I think for now, with the next few fixtures, and especially with the third one from now, I think we said it was Ipswich. So I would go for it. Just keep an eye out on the news that obviously he wasn't in training. But I think he's worth it. If you're not going to have Haaland, then I would absolutely be squeezing in Son in there for now. And maybe he's a placeholder for Saka or something down the line.
Yeah, the one thing I don't like about this is that there are question marks over the form of how Larson will do over the next few. These are more look how they do over the next few games before making the decisions. So Visa's just come back from injury. For all we know, he may not start at the weekend against Ipswich. Larson again, see if he can build up some form first. Jimenez, we know what he can do, and then the midfield 4, like you just said, the midfield 5. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Mbeumo didn't count, but just from a pricing point of view, I meant the other 4.
Yeah, it's all the big heavy hitters, but there's question marks over Foden minutes. Now, we all know that Foden should be starting every single Man City game. We know this. But Pep doesn't give a shit what we think.
Absolutely. So Tiggy also has 3 free transfers after the wild card, Gabriel, and 1 million in the bank. So, I mean, that's a good position to be in. Lots of transfers to use should you need to move that money from Son on. Fatality, incredible finish last year, 1543 rank. Darnish, we're going to do these quick fires, Steve, because we need to go. The second half of the games has started already. We don't want to keep everyone. Darnish, should I start Vardy or Smith Rowe next week? So I'm just looking at the stats on screen. We have Leicester 1.28 projected goals for Vardy there, and then Smith Rowe, Fulham 1.43. Not much in it. Depends, I think Vardy maybe more minutes you would predict, and home fixture. Smith Rowe, obviously, as a midfielder in FPL, like maybe you can get better returns. Ultimately, though, I don't think Smith Rowe, if you look at the number of goals he's had, I don't know if it was James was saying it on Planet FPL to Clayton or something, or he was saying like he'd had like the same number of shots on target as he had goals. So for me, like I don't know, like away from home, that kind of fixture depends. I'm expecting an Everton clean sheet maybe in that fixture personally, so I would just go with the Leicester home for me, despite the extra points. Any final thoughts on Watkins from Shaz before we go? Any thoughts on Watkins?
They've got horrible, I want to say horrible fixtures in the sense of they have got up at Bournemouth next, easy fixture, and then Tottenham away. I'm sorry to say this, but I don't think that's such a bad fixture. The way Tottenham are playing at the moment, the way Aston Villa playing away from home, I think that Aston Villa can get a result there. Liverpool away is the worst fixture in the next 3. I think Watkins, if you own him, you hold. Perfect. Aston Villa are a brilliant team.
Nice one. So, Steve, where can the viewers find you? Tell us where they can find you on X, on YouTube, your own podcast that isn't FPL. Just give a few shout outs. And if you're watching on podcast or video, there will be links to Steve-O's X profile, which I'm sure you'll find the rest. But yeah, let us know a little bit more about some of the stuff you do, how they can find you.
Well, I mean, talking about X, if you like The Office or Extras, anything Ricky Gervais or Steve Merchant do, then you may as well follow me because that's the only thing I post about. But other than that, anything to do with Elite FPL, essentially, we just live stream all our live reactions. So, for instance, this Sunday, we're going to be having a few people on covering all the matches, including the Arsenal-Liverpool game. It's going to be a very, very, very long day, Nima, of streaming. But thank God I'll be with a few people to cover those particular matches. Tomorrow evening, so which is Thursday, me and Jason are going to be doing the Gameweek 9 preview, where Jason has already teased us the fact that he may be doing a free hit, which nice. I hope he does, because he sounds like
I hope he does.
Yeah, I'm really, really hoping he does his free hit. And I've got Alex Volo to make up I haven't seen it yet, but I've got Alex Volo to make us up a special thumbnail. And then every single Saturday, me and Ray Qureshi, we will be doing a Saturday. We're the only streamers to do an immediate Saturday night live reaction to everything that's happening.
Straight after the 5:30 game ends. Wow.
Yeah, well, we go about 8 o'clock,
Okay.
but yeah, it's just we'll talk for about an hour or so, and I love stream with Ray. Very similar to you, just talk naturally, get on with it, and yeah. And then on Sundays we do our Sunday surgery stream where we get you guys, the listener or the watcher, on via our Discord, and if you've got any dilemmas with your team and whatnot, we will get you live on air, look for your team, and hopefully me and Jason will be able to discuss with you, like me and Nima have been doing with you guys.
With our teams, right? Like we've been sharing it with the guys in the chat and just thinking about our choices. I guess it's similar. You get your viewers on and they get a chance to do some Sunday surgery. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've always made the point that I tried to stick with 3 streams a week, but I will do the odd impromptu, vlog from Heathrow Airport, wherever, speaking absolute nonsense.
I remember there was a video of you in the car, and there was a massive cow walking up to the window. And you got out the car, and the cow looked huge. And I was like, how is he streaming from this location? I was so, like you were in like a mountain or a hill or something.
Yeah, it was on Dartmoor. Yeah, it was a beautiful location, and I could not believe the size of that cow. It was absolutely ginormous. But yeah, the reality is we take our community very, very seriously, and I will, whether I take the mick out of them, whether I embrace them, it really doesn't matter. We involve our community a lot, and we do talk a lot about them, hence why I've mentioned a lot of names, because I value their fanship and their loyalty to our channel. So I just try and make sure that we try and get involved as much as we can, hence why we do a lot of live streams. I don't really care for video format personally. I've always thought that I think live is
or live
some
stream.
Of the most.
Yeah, I prefer live stream.
Yeah, it's a very. I've noticed from my own personal mental health point of view that when someone's live streaming and you enjoy their content, like when you were streaming with Nick, I don't know why it's like you're going out for a walk and you go, do you know what? I fancy listening into, in this case, Nick and Nima. Whereas with video format, it's this really weird psychology of that you've really got to be invested in something to want to watch it or listen.
Yeah, whereas this, you could be on a walk, and like I do it a lot. I have the YouTube open, and like if like Juice is on a live stream, I might not be able to see the visuals, but I'll be like walking the dog and I'll just listen along, and I feel like I'm there because it's live. Yeah, it is quite fun actually. Yeah, cool. Okay, so Steve-O, let's make sure the viewers, if you do like The Office, if you like WWE as well, which we didn't mention, you need to definitely go and follow Steve-O's account. It's I believe it's EliteFPL _Steve-O.
I don't have a clue, mate.
Well, I've linked it in the description. Haaland has also scored, which is definitely a signal for us to go and catch the end of the matches.
Phone assist.
Yeah. Quick, cheeky. All right. Thank you so much for coming on, Steve-O. Guys, check out the Game Week 9 preview tomorrow. Hopefully, Jason is also on a free hit.
He'll probably be a raccoon or something tomorrow.
Oh, I love it. I remember last time he ran into the shed in the rain. It was crazy. But thank you for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week. And good luck in Game Week 9. May your arrows be green. And thanks to all the new viewers and returning viewers. And see you guys next time. Peace.